I've been waiting for the day I could tell you how it's gonna be when it's coming. I may never know, I may never know, I may never know.
Hey, this is Tade. Welcome to a special supplementary edition of Playing Along. This is to complement the episode that I just did with my friend Bobo Burns of the Fallen Stars, because we make a couple of hilarious mistakes in there, and this is the entire reason why I was inspired to start this podcast, or if not the entire reason, it is one of the most important reasons, which is if you've listened to these, if you've watched some of my videos, you know I have been playing music for a very long time, since a kid, but really didn't have a great formal education about it. Really approached this from like a rock and roll angle, from a folk lesson angle. So even if I didn't play folk music, I was approaching it in that folk tradition of, friends showed me things on guitar, and I didn't know how the pieces of music all fit together in a theory. So only now, after almost 30 years of playing guitar, am I kind of making sense of all that stuff that's been rattling around in my head for the past 3 decades. So one of these very mistakes happened in this episode with Bobo Burns. We were playing a song of his called I May Never Know from his album Motel Americana. You heard a bit of it start this little episode here, this mini episode. That was the chorus, and it is specifically the chorus that we screwed up. And boy, I could pick apart how we screwed this chorus up, and I have talked about this chorus with so many people since we recorded this episode, and there's been a lot of discussion back and forth among my friends of whether to, re-record the whole episode, which I didn't think would work, because I thought, well, I already know the song. We'd have to pick another song, we'd have a different discussion, it's a whole thing, and specifically because this is the sort of thing that just gets my juices flowing. Like, this is what I love picking apart. And again, only now as an adult who's been playing music for a long time. So I'm telling you in hopes that if you do not have that many years of experience under your belt, maybe I can pass along some of this enthusiasm for pulling apart theory, things like this. And if you do have all this experience under your belt, maybe you'll think, wow, that's really cool. That's the same sort of thing I pick apart when I'm playing guitar. Let me get into this mistake. Okay, so if you've listened to the episode, you will hear Bobo, as we play the chorus through, say, there's something wrong with this. He's like, I don't know why I keep hitting the wrong chord to end the chorus. And what he's doing is, I don't know whether to start with the wrong chords or what, but before we actually started recording, we were both sort of strumming these chords through, and I didn't realize at the time that Bobo was sort of rehearsing the song in his head before we started recording. I was just sort of strumming along like sound check kind of wise. We've got a capo on the 2nd fret. I'm going to tell you the actual names of the chords, not the open shapes of the chords. So we were playing an A, an E, a B major, and then a D. And so we were just strumming those just before we started the episode. And the chorus, that turned out was the chorus. So I'd kind of heard a little bit. This was in my ear. So when we get to it, I'm just naturally strumming those chords along with Bobo. And this is how Bobo sings it, or I will do an approximation of the melody. All my apologies to Bobo. But it goes, I've been waiting for the day I could tell you how it's gonna be when it's coming. I may never know. What happened was we were riding that D out at the end, through that whole I may never know part. And Bobo, he just felt in his hands that he was supposed to change to another chord, which is a thing that, like, as musicians, we are always doing. We get that rhythm ingrained in our heads, and he knew he was supposed to change to a chord. So we interrupt the song, this is all captured in the episode. You hear him strumming through it and kind of singing to himself and going, what, I may never know, I may never. And we think we got it settled. So it's like, basically, we're just going to ride that D for a long time. So then I say, hey, how about I try a harmony on this? I'm not a real good harmony singer, but let's try something. When you're singing this with your wife in the band, what does she sing? Is it a fifth up? Is it a third up? What is it? He says, I think it's probably a third. So I kind of figure out the melody that he's singing. You'll hear all this in the episode. And it's sort of centered around this A, which is, of course, the first chord we're playing. And he's singing this A note. I've been waiting, waiting. You'll hear him hitting different notes in there, but that A is kind of the central one. So I realized, well, I'm going to have to sing this C sharp, which is way up here. And I kind of strum it down here, thinking maybe I harmonize below him. And I don't do a very good job of centering on that note or learning his melody. We rush through it. But we go through it, and Bobo gives me this look, and is like, that was great. And I think, wow, I nailed a harmony on my first try through. I'm so self-congratulatory in my head. I'm thinking, I can't believe it. I can't wait to run through this whole song and show everybody what a great harmony singer I am. So then I go to mix the track after he's left, and I realized, like, I'm not singing a harmony. And I send him the track and say, Bobo, I don't think I'm singing a harmony. What's going on here? Bobo listens to the track and goes, oh man, I just realized how I screwed up the chords. So he emails me back and tells me that we're playing the right chords in the right order. We just started on the wrong chord. So we were starting with this A. We should have started with that D. And when I play it through here, you'll hear how it naturally sits on that D at the end of the chorus before it goes back to that verse, F sharp minor right there, okay? So what we should have done was... When we start the riding on that D chord, we're already on it. Our hand has moved to it. So that's what was throwing Bobo off, because his hand just wanted to move to another chord, but every time it did, because we had started on the wrong chord, he was moving to the wrong chord, so it just felt unnatural for him to hold on that D for as long as we did. And once he told me that, it kind of opened up the harmony problem, because I realized, well, when I thought we were playing an A chord and he was singing an A note and I would harmonize with that C sharp, I started picking it apart and I realized, no, he's not actually even starting on the A, he's starting on the C sharp. So when I sang the C sharp, I thought I was in harmony with him. I felt myself singing that, but the actual melody that he's singing goes... So I thought I would record it here, and I'll put a second voice on to play or to sing the melody that I should have sung. Because we're starting on that D chord. He's singing the A still, mainly. He starts with the C sharp, which is the seventh note, right, of that? And then he goes to the A, which is the fifth note, of the D chord. So he's hitting the 5 right there. There's our root. There's our 5, which is the dominant. I could have sung this third right here, just a little bit below him, instead of that weird way that I was thinking about on the A, where I was way down here and he was way up here. It's like a shorter distance. This is what that would sound like. I've been waiting for the day I could tell you how it's gonna be when it's coming. I may never know, I may never know, I may never know. So what's cool about this is that it quickly teaches me so much about harmony, which is that basically, if we had just taken a little bit of time and figured out that vocal melody a little bit more so that I could actually play it on guitar, which is sometimes that's a hard thing to do. You kind of float through some notes and stuff in rock and roll, and it's not always easy to pick out like a 3-note melody that you're going to concentrate on. But if we at least had picked it apart a little bit more, and if we had our chords in the right place, I would have realized that I sort of knew in the moment, but I didn't have a way to define it, which is it's kind of a bad idea to try to harmonize this note with this note that low. That's a big space right there. It was also difficult because we were playing back and forth from that A to that C sharp to really feel in the moment where I was forming a harmony with him between what he was singing and what I was singing. So that's why in the moment I thought, I know I'm hitting that A in some places, I'm hitting that C sharp in some places, I must be harmonizing. Frankly, like, just to give us a little bit of credit, I think our voices blended pretty well in that part, and that's what sounded to us like a harmony. We went, yeah, that sounds cool, the way our voices sound. But like I was saying, what this teaches me about harmony is that if I want to find a harmony, I really need to figure out what that chord is, what the note of that chord is that the main melody is based around, and then find a close note to it. So it just makes so much more sense to me if he's still singing that A, that I'm going to be singing this F sharp here, which is, if we were playing the D chord, that's the third of the D chord, not the third of the A chord. Anyway, it's just a cool lesson for me to learn. And when I went back and listened to the record, I've tried so many times to pick apart what Tracy, Bobo's wife, who plays bass in the band, is singing. And sometimes she's singing just an octave above him, and sometimes she does sort of end on a harmony note. But it's much more, it's not a harmony in unison throughout the chorus. So we were doing something very different than the way they recorded it. She sings sort of at the end of the lines over just one chord, which it makes it stand out a lot more, and makes, like, when she's just an octave above, when she's singing the same line, or when she's singing a harmony, it really stands out because she's only on that one chord. Anyway, I hope you find this interesting. This is the kind of stuff, like I said, this is one of the major reasons that I wanted to do a podcast about music, because I really want anyone learning music to figure out that, like, it's, even for those of us who have been playing for 30 years, we still make stupid mistakes. Sometimes we make happy accidents, and sometimes we make very confusing accidents, which is what Bobo and I did. I really appreciate Bobo, just being game for the whole episode, but then kind of unknowingly being game for me picking this all apart and making a real example of it. He is an absolutely wonderful performer. He and his wife, Tracy, never hit a wrong note in concert. You can catch them all over Europe and the US this summer. Find them at thefallenstars.com. I hope you will go to playing-along.com to find all my articles about music, bunch of videos, all the podcasts. You can subscribe to this podcast through iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. Find more podcasts that I make with my friend Taylor and all our other friends at there.network. Gosh, there's so much to do with Playing Along and all these other podcasts, and I just hope you'll check it all out, and I hope you enjoyed this one. I'm Todd A. I will talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye.
There's a storm behind my eyes, but you never hear a sound. It's too late to move to higher ground. Now I can't tell you what you want.